Hey, setting financial goals is an essential step towards achieving financial stability and long-term success. Pretty basic stuff, right? However, life is full of unexpected twists and turns that can lead us astray from those intended paths and goals that we wanted. So whether it's a financial setback, an unexpected expense, or just poor financial decisions, it's common to get knocked off track from our goals. And to be brutally honest with you, the vast majority of people who we work with don't have perfect lives. Not to say that their lives are horrible, but the reality is that everyone has their own share of problems and challenges throughout their life. In my opinion, though, the real difference maker between those who simply survive versus those who thrive, it often comes down to their willingness to first recognize that there is a problem, and second, to take action on that to get back on track again. Pretty simple stuff. But the good news here is that realigning with your financial goals is entirely possible with a proactive, disciplined approach. And in this video, I'm going to help you explore effective strategies to get you back on track and regain control of your financial future. Before I start listing strategies that you can get you sort of back on track, let's first address the elephant in the room, okay? It's hard to recognize sometimes that you even have a problem or that you're off track. I get that. There's a feeling of disappointment, a feeling sometimes of shame. It's a feeling that you feel like you should have known better, okay, or done better. And first things first, I want you to get rid of that feeling, right? Just dismiss it. Toss it to the side, whatever you got to do to move past it. It's not going to help you at all, and it's going to be really a distraction to keep you from taking the steps that you need to take of action to get back on track. So let me tell you a story about the very first podcast I did. It was with one of the most successful businessmen that I've ever met. Very early in that conversation, he told me and my audience that he was an alcoholic. I wasn't expecting him to say that, and but what really impressed me about that interview was the way he simply brought it up and then moved right past it. He recognized, like all of us, that he wasn't perfect, but he didn't dwell on it, and he proceeded to simply talk about how he worked around that issue and how it hasn't stopped him from being an incredibly successful person. You need to have that same kind of attitude and honesty with yourself, and you should also be aware that most people go through challenges all the time that knock them down or knock them off track. You're in good company. So with that said, let's dive into the strategies that those people use to get back to where they want to be when they get knocked off, okay? The first one is assess the situation. So the first step in realigning with your financial goals is to evaluate your current situation, current financial situation. So take a comprehensive look at your income, your expenses, your debts, your savings, all that stuff. I'd refer to this as your base plan. It's really just a snapshot of today. It can get better from here or it can get worse from here. That depends on you. But it's really a staple in that first step that you should be taking. Think of it as the same as looking at a map. If you know where your destination is, how can you ever take that first step to get there if you don't really have any idea where you're starting from on the map? So once you have a starting point and understand where you are today, combined with where you want to be in the future, it really just becomes much easier to identify the path forward and the factors that are knocking you off course. And by understanding the root cause of those factors that are knocking you off course, you can develop targeted strategies to overcome them and prevent future setbacks. For example, sometimes it's not your income or your savings that are too low. It's sometimes your spending habits that are really too high. So if you can identify that, you can then go after it, right? And try to create better habits. All right, let's talk about revise and prioritize your goals. Take the opportunity to reassess and refine your financial goals when needed. Prioritize them based on your significance and feasibility. It's crucial to set realistic and attainable targets to avoid frustration and maintain that motivation. But you know what? It's also great to set reach goals or to aim high. Now, you might say, Bob, those two statements kind of contradict each other, and you would be correct. However, in my opinion, when it comes to saving money, there's nothing wrong with aiming high. One of my childhood idols was Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And he had a great statement about having a plan B. And basically, it's a horrible Arnold impression, but he says, I hate plan B. I never had a plan B. But you know what? Look at this chart. If you chart your course on this red line with a lofty goal over here on the right side, but through the course of whatever time, even though you tried as hard as you could, you fell short of that lofty goal. You need to keep in perspective of how far you actually came over that entire period of time, however long your chart is. Look where you started way over here on the left, and then look how much better off you are now. Sure, you're under your reach goal by a certain margin, but that's not a failure. That's a fantastic future that you have ahead of you. Next, create a budget. For some of us, the word budget, it makes the hairs in the back of your neck stand up and our bodies get all tense. Don't overthink this, and don't let yourself get lost in the details. We often use basic templates for someone who doesn't have a budget, doesn't know where to start. And I'll include a link to this example from nerdwallet.com. Yeah, that's a funny name, but it's a good site. Developing a budget is an essential tool for getting back on track with your financial goals, plain and simple. Start by tracking your expenses, categorizing them. Identify areas where you can cut back or maybe even eliminate unnecessary spending. Allocate a specific portion of your income towards savings and debt repayment. Knock those debts down. A budget acts as a roadmap, again, guiding you towards financial discipline and helping you make informed financial decisions. Cut unnecessary expenses. Take a critical look at your spending habits and identify areas where you can make adjustments. This is the part where my wife and family if they had a remote for me, they'd be like, bloop, hit the mute button, shut me up. But in all honesty, consider cutting back on discretionary expenses such as eating out, entertainment, or subscription services. Small sacrifices in the short term can lead to significant savings in the long run. Reevaluate your recurring bills, negotiate better rates, consider alternatives that offer cost savings without compromising your lifestyle if you can. One of my business partners, John Burke, did another video with me some time ago where he talked about this very thing. I think it was once a year, John contacts certain services, puts it on his calendar, he calls them, he goes through here and he just basically does this song and dance of negotiating better prices. He almost always ends up with a much better deal than if he had not called. So it's worth your time too. So consider doing this for your dollars. Next would be increase your income. If your current income is not sufficient to support your financial goals, consider finding ways to increase your earning potential. Now, when I say this, I picture you sarcastically looking back at your screen saying, wow, really, Bob? That's amazing. I never thought about that one. Just go out and make more money. I'm very aware that is not an easy solution for everyone, and probably not for most people. However, in today's day and age, it's more of an option than many people realize. Explore your options such as a side hustle, freelancing, take up part-time work, invest in upgrading your skills or acquiring new skills that are in demand these days. Increasing your income can provide additional resources to accelerate your progress toward achieving your financial goals. And for those who may be retired already, you may also consider part-time work. I've talked about that before. And in fact, on this podcast, I've mentioned how some people in retirement don't want to completely stop working yet. As a part-time job, it can not only provide additional money to fund those retirement years, but it may also provide social capital, a chance to mingle with a whole new set of people and meet new customers each day. Now, I want you to consider tackling debt strategically. If you have accumulated debt that has knocked you off track, you're not alone by this at all, but prioritize its repayment. High interest debt, such as credit card balances, should be targeted first. Consider consolidating debts to lower interest rates or negotiate with creditors for better repayment terms. Make consistent payments towards your debts to reduce the impact on your financial stability and your financial progress. I want to show you quickly just how important it is to pay attention to the interest rates on your debts and the size of the debts that you're dealing with. This is using a website called mortgagecalculator.org. On this chart, I'm just illustrating someone buying a $250,000 home with 20% down, which means $50,000 of a down payment, which means they would borrow the other $200,000 at interest rates, which today are about 6.5%. And I'm showing this for a 30-year fixed mortgage. No real surprises here. When you first glance at this chart, it would be wise for you to focus on the section labeled interest. Do you see in the beginning years just how much interest you're paying? It's quite a lot. And it takes quite a number of years for that annual amount to really start shrinking or dwindling down. But what's scary to me is that a lot of people tend to move to another home about every 5 to 10 years. Most of us know people or are those people. And what happens when they do that, they usually buy a similar sized home or even a bigger home to feel like they upgraded and improved their life. And they repeat this whole process over and over again. But the person who really makes out well in that scenario is not really a person at all. It's the lender. Whoever loaned you that money and made all that large amount of interest in the first 5 to 10 years suddenly wins again when you repeat the whole cycle, starting with a new mortgage and even potentially a higher amount, and the interest is loaded on the front end of that amortization schedule. Now, here's even more evidence supporting my point about paying high interest over long periods of time. This here is a summary of what we just talked about. You can see up top that we paid $50,000 down on the payment on the home. And the initial purchase, we locked in for about a little over $1,500 a month in payments for 30 years. Now, just below that on the right, you can see that over those 30 years, you will have paid more than the price of the home. In fact, over $255,000 in interest alone. Looking further down all the way to the bottom, you have a total that you've paid back to the lender is $557,000. But wait, I'm not done yet. Don't forget, you already put down $50,000 on that payment. So that was just in reference to the loan. That means that to move into your $250,000 home today, you'll end up probably paying over $600,000 for that place. Now, I am in no way against home ownership. In fact, I'm a huge fan of it. But I do see people getting involved in bidding wars for homes, and it just concerns me that they don't really fully grasp the financial burden that they're committing to. Remember that you have to put furniture, decorate it, and all kinds of things, and insurance and everything. So I just want to point out to you that proceed with caution when it comes to home ownership and make good judgment. And don't forget, you can always seek professional advice. If you find it challenging to realign with your financial goals all on your own, seek guidance from a financial advisor or a planner. They can provide expert insights that can help you create a tailored financial plan and offer strategies to overcome whatever obstacles you have going on. A professional's expertise and objectivity can be instrumental, really, in getting you back on track and ensuring a secure financial future. And to be blunt, this is exactly what we do here at Stonehouse. And the reason people come to us is not only because we have the tools to do all these things that we just talked about, but we actually really love helping people figure out their puzzle. So whether you're someone who is saving for retirement but really feel like you're way behind, or you haven't started yet, or you got knocked way off course, or you're someone who's already retired but may have been dealt some unexpected curveballs in your life and you got knocked off course as well. Either way, Asking Stonehouse or another financial professional is a fantastic way to quickly determine your best path forward. Last piece of advice, stay committed and adjust as needed. Realigning with your financial goals requires discipline. It requires perseverance and adaptability. Stay committed to your budget, to your savings plan, and your debt repayment strategies we just talked about. Do regular monitor your progress, make adjustments when necessary. Yes, life circumstances may change, requiring you to modify your goals and timelines. But be flexible and be willing to adapt your financial plan to maintain alignment with your evolving circumstances. Pretty simple stuff. So, hey, in conclusion, I said in the beginning of this video that your base plan is nothing more than a snapshot of where you are today. If you don't know where you are today, then it's really hard to get back on track. If you have that uneasy feeling in your gut, sort of telling you that you're probably headed in the wrong direction right now, then just remember, getting off track from your financial goals, it's not uncommon at all. And it's never too late to course correct and regain control.